Questions orales, oral questions. The honourable member for Thornhill.
It's Friday and the Prime Minister is still not worth the cost. We know that this summer Canada's economy actually shrank while the American economy grew by nearly 5%, all because of higher government spending, which leads to higher interest rates and higher inflation. Canadians are getting poorer, and no amount of rattling off statistics is going to change that fact. When will this government finally commit to balancing the budget and axing the tax so that Canadians can afford to eat, heat, and house themselves?
Yeah. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. While the Conservatives continue to talk down the Canadian economy, I'd like to take the opportunity to remind them about some of the key results of our economic plan so far. Madam Speaker, Canada is working because Canadians are working. Our GDP today is actually 4.1% above pre-pandemic levels. That's higher than Italy, higher than the European Union, higher than France, the UK, and Germany, Madam Speaker. And the IMF projects that Canada will have the highest economic growth in the G7 in 2024. Madam Speaker, I'd note that this is the same report that showed significantly upward revision in Canada's growth over the second quarter. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable member for Thornhill.
Madam Speaker, they can talk all they want, but the plan isn't working. We have never spent so much in this country to achieve so little. Government spending went up by more than 7%, and the economy still shrank by 1.1%. We have the lowest GDP per capita growth today and for the next 40 years of any advanced economy, according to their own budget. Canadians get higher taxes, higher spending, and more regulation. They are getting poorer. Why do they think that plan is working for Canadians?
Yeah. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. What the Conservatives don't realize is when they continue to talk down the Canadian economy, they're talking down Canadian workers, they're talking down Canadian innovators, and they're talking down Canadians who are working hard to build up our economy. And on this side of the House, Madam Speaker, we know that Canada's the best country in the world, and that's why I'm glad to share some more good news. Canada had the strongest growth in the G7 over the course of 2022, and the IMF predicts that we'll see the strongest average growth in the G7 in 2024. Madam Speaker, earlier this month, Moody's reiterated Canada's AAA rating, and that's not something that the Harper Conservatives could attest to back in their day. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Thornhill.
Madam Speaker, we're talking down the economic malpractice that is coming from that side. These numbers tell a very different story, and worse, they're actually even tied with those guys. Just yesterday, Madam Speaker, the First Nations leaders sued this government, claiming that the carbon tax unfairly punishes Indigenous communities. There is legislation in front of the Senate right now that will help Indigenous Canadians and all Canadians by taking the tax off of the farmers that grow the food so the Canadians can afford to buy the food. Why are the Liberals ordering their senators to block the bill that this House passed?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister.
Speaker, it's still clear that the Conservative Party and its members don't really understand how Indigenous people are not Indigenous Canadians, but in fact they're Indigenous people of their own nations, Madam Speaker. The idea of self-determination is something that this Conservative Party just can't wrap their heads around. The colonial Conservatives just won't quit.
L'honorable député de Mégantic-l'Érable.
After 8 years, Canadians can no longer afford this Prime Minister's out-of-control costs. Next year, Canadians will pay more for interest on the debt than for healthcare, bankers, or for nurses. 2 million Canadians use food banks every month. More and more of them are from the middle class. Children are asking for winter boots and snowsuits so they can stay warm instead of toys to play with. Will the Prime Minister finally understand it's time to end his inflationary policies that's making everything cost more? The Honourable Minister. I want to thank my colleague for his question. What the Conservatives need to understand, Madam Speaker, is that we're helping Canadians with the Affordability Act. I know my colleague. He has influence in his party. People listen to him. I hope he convinces his colleagues to vote in favour of this bill. If he wants to give Canadians a gift by Christmas, it's to help us change how competition runs here in Canada, because Canadians know the best way to stabilize prices is to have more competition. Will he use his influence once and for all to actually help Canadians? The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. We voted for it at second reading stage, so I don't understand where he's going with that question. What I know is that yesterday, the Journal de Montréal reported that children are asking for snowsuits. One child even asked, if you can believe it, a gift card to have a nice Christmas dinner. That's the reality. Does the minister have enough influence in the cabinet to convince the prime minister to end his inflationary policies, meaning that children have to cut into their Christmas wish lists? The Honourable Minister. Madam Speaker, speaking of Christmas gifts, I have an idea for the Conservative Party. Let's give a gift to Canadians. A third reading of the Affordability Act is coming. If what they say is what they think, they should show it to Canadians and vote in favor of reforming competition, because that's the best way to give Canadians a gift. It's to help them to have price stability. People watching us are wondering, after 8 years, what are the Conservatives going to do for us? They have the chance to do something before Christmas for everyone. Will they? The Honourable Member for Laurentides-Labelle. Madam Speaker, Quebecers are happy to do their part when it comes to welcoming refugees. The problem is the federal government isn't asking us to do our fair share. They're asking us to do twice as much, 48% of asylum seekers in Canada. They're asking us to pay nearly 5 times our share, 100% of the bill, $460 million. In all, without taking into account the ability to welcome them. Instead of moralizing, will the federal government finally do its fair share and reimburse Quebec? The Honourable Minister. Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank my colleague for her question in French. I would also like to answer her in French. As she knows full well, the agreement we have with Quebec gives it the authority and the jurisdiction to choose its immigration levels. We work closely with Quebec. We will continue to do so to make sure that immigration meets our needs, Quebec's needs, and Francophones' needs. Thank you.
Honorable député de Laurentides-Labelle.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We're talking about the Canada-Quebec Agreement, indicating that Quebec needs to welcome part of asylum seekers up to. There's no problem with that. However, right now, we're welcoming twice as much as our share, with 48% of asylum seekers. Meanwhile, British Columbia has 10 times less. The 4 maritime provinces altogether welcome 285 people. That's not even 1%. So we'll continue to do our share in Quebec. But will the federal government make sure that we're not the only ones? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank my colleague for her question. I repeat, Quebec is the only province that has an agreement of its own regarding immigration. It's worth $700 million for integration, helping immigrants learn French in Quebec. We'll continue to work with Quebecers. As my colleague said, there's going to be a meeting with the government of Quebec to talk about immigration levels and to talk about how we're going to work together to make sure that we welcome refugees and asylum seekers as well as we can.
Speaker, today marks the 42nd World AIDS Day. Countless Canadians have lost someone due to AIDS, and Canada is heading in the wrong direction as new infections are increasing, especially among Indigenous communities. For an annual investment of just $100 million, HIV in Canada could be eliminated. People living with HIV and organizations like HIV Edmonton have the tools to do this work. They just need the proper resources. When will this government provide the funding needed to make the elimination of HIV a reality?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ensuring that Canadians have access to testing and treatment for HIV on this World's AIDS Day is a top priority for our government. That's why we recently announced nearly $18 million in funding to make decentralized forms of HIV testing, including HIV self-test kits, more widely available across Canada. HIV self-test kits are helpful in reaching those who are undiagnosed by offering greater accessibility, privacy, convenience, and can reduce stigma. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Member for Cowichan, Langford, Malahat Langford.
Madam Speaker, this coming Monday, the CEO of Sobeys will be back to testify on food prices. For 2 years, the Liberals have been beating around the bush, both on bringing food prices down and standing up to grocery CEOs. And anyone could tell you the minister's little meeting where he asked these rich CEOs nicely to stop gouging Canadian grocers had no impact. Well, by bringing back the grocery CEOs, the NDP has given the minister a chance to right his wrongs. So will the Liberals crack down on this out-of-control price gouging?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, I won't take the little meeting personally. I'm sure that he was not referring to me when he said that, because in fact it was a big meeting. It was the first time in Canada's history that we have the 5 largest grocers in Canada, and what I did, Madam Speaker, I expressed the frustration of 40 million Canadians. So I welcome my colleague to express his own frustration, because it's together that we're going to stabilize prices. And Madam Speaker, one of the tools that we have presented that's going to make a difference is a reform on competition. That is the best way to stabilize prices. We're really committed, and I hope every member of this House will vote in favor.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Always difficult to follow this member's large impression. After 8 years of this NDP Liberal government, Canada is facing challenges not seen since the Great Depression. 2 million Canadians are visiting food banks a month, doubling rents and mortgages. And perhaps worst of all, heartbreaking reports of children asking Santa for something to eat for this Christmas. To quote the Liberal Finance Minister from 2015, "This is no global problem, as the government likes to pretend for its shoddy mismanagement. This is a made-in-Canada runway to recession." Why are these Liberals so hell-bent to impoverishing Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. You know, on one hand, it's good to see the Conservatives finally talking about poverty reduction strategies, but on the other hand, it's clear that they're still only reading the headlines and not the article. Madam Speaker, while the Conservatives continue to talk down the Canadian economy, I'd like to take an opportunity to remind them of a couple of key facts. There are over 1.1 million more jobs created since the pandemic, and we've recovered all the jobs and the economic growth since after the pandemic, Madam Speaker. The important thing to recognize with respect to poverty reduction is that our government was the one that modernized the Canada Child Benefit and pulled hundreds of thousands of children out of poverty. Poverty reduction continues to be one of the pillars of our government strategy. Thank you, Madam.
Honourable Member for Northumberland, Peterborough South.
I want those at home to listen carefully, because what you won't hear from that side at all is per capita, per Canadian. Every Canadian, on average, is getting poorer. In fact, our economy shrank by 1.1%. Our per capita growth is to be the worst in the OECD. The U.S., it's gone up by nearly 5%. So I'm just curious, what will cause these Liberals to reverse direction? Longer food bank lines, worse economic numbers, or perhaps even worse polling numbers?
Yeah. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, you know, I've been paying attention to those same headlines, but I don't just read the top line, I read the entire article. And what a lot of these poverty reduction organizations, the food banks, and the organizations that are helping keep some of the most vulnerable Canadians afloat during challenging times, what they're asking for is continued programs like guaranteed livable income strategies like the Canada Child Benefit and the Guaranteed Income Supplement, Madam Speaker. They're asking for more programs to support Canada's most vulnerable, and those are the exact same programs that these Conservatives would cut if they were ever in government. Their programs, when Harper was the Prime Minister, did nothing to alleviate poverty and will continue to help the most vulnerable Canadians with these.
The Honourable Member for Kenora.
Madam Speaker, after 8 years of this NDP Liberal government, First Nation leaders know that this Prime Minister is not worth the cost. The Chiefs of Ontario, representing over 130 First Nations, are asking the federal court to exempt their communities from the carbon tax, a policy they say leaves them worse off and breaches the principles of reconciliation. Madam Speaker, when will the Liberals stop violating the constitutional rights of First Nations and simply axe the tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I'll reiterate that there is no relationship more important to this government than Canada's relationship with First Nations and Indigenous peoples. And no one understands the risks of the dangers of climate change better than First Nations communities. They're on the front lines with record wildfires and horrible destructions that we've seen over the last couple of years. So, like us, First Nations are asking for more climate resilience, more climate action. Just last month, I was proud to meet with the Indigenous Leadership Initiative on their Land Needs Guardians approach. Madam Speaker, the price on pollution is the most effective way to fight climate change and will continue to.
The Honourable Member for Kenora.
Madam Speaker, First Nations do see firsthand the effects of climate change, but under this government, they miss climate target after climate target. Their plan simply is not working. They're only driving up the cost of living on First Nations and people right across the country. Meanwhile, NDP and Liberal politicians across Northern Ontario are planning to quadruple this tax. So again, why are they so committed to their failed plan that they're ignoring the concerns of First Nations?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, since we took office in 2015, Indigenous spending has increased by 168%, Madam Speaker, in First Nations communities. That's no small number, Madam Speaker, but you know what underlies that number? The ongoing systemic discrimination of the previous Conservative government, who spent nothing in First Nations communities, who discriminated against children, Madam Speaker, who ensured that generations of poverty would continue. We're reversing that trend, Madam Speaker. We're the ones that are working on reconciliation. These folks have nothing to say.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member for Denetime-Mississippi Churchill River.
Speaker, instead of listening to Canadians, this Prime Minister is quadrupling down on his failed carbon tax. Yesterday, left with no option after being ignored by this NDP Liberal government, Ontario Chiefs filed a judicial review asking for their own carbon tax carve-out. After 8 years, they've realized this Prime Minister is just not worth the cost. This is the Prime Minister who claimed that the relationship with First Nations is the most important one to him and his government. If that is true, Speaker, will he stop forcing First Nations to go to court to defend their constitutional rights and axe the tax?
Yeah. Honourable Minister for Indigenous Services.
Madam Speaker, last summer I spent the summer with First Nations leaders, community after community, evacuating people from the onslaught of incredible wildfires, of floods, Madam Speaker, that devastated community infrastructure, that put people out of their homes for weeks, in fact, months at an end, Madam Speaker. That's the risk of climate change to First Nations communities. They're first on the line in terms of people affected by the devastation of climate change. Indeed, Indigenous leaders know that, and we are working with Indigenous communities to ensure that they have the infrastructure they need, the support they need to manage this.
The Honourable Member for Denetime-Mississippi Churchill River.
Speaker, First Nations leaders are simply tired of managing poverty, and they've realized that this Prime Minister is not worth the cost. Unlike this Prime Minister, they're forced to think about monetary policy and know that he is simply not worth the cost. In fact, last January, the Ontario Chiefs wrote to this Prime Minister saying that the carbon tax was a grossly unfair burden on their nations. 4 out of 5 First Nation communities have median incomes that fall below the poverty line, and they're asking for their own carbon tax carve-out. Speaker, will this NDP Liberal government finally listen to First Nations leaders and simply axe the tax?
Yeah. Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, for a decade, the Conservative government kept people in poverty, refused to invest in infrastructure, refused to support education, Madam Speaker. Can you believe it? When we were elected in 2015, we made sure there was parity for First Nations education so kids could get a decent education. That member knows the record of the Conservative Party. We will not stop on our work in reconciliation. And Madam Speaker, their record speaks for itself. That's the gap that we now have to close.
Honorable député de Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagotte.
Devinette, savez-vous ce que...
Do you know what a lack of vision is? It's giving a contract for building planes worth $10 billion to Boeing when a company in Quebec has the expertise. It's giving Quebecers money without a call for tender to the biggest aerospace rival for Quebec. It's depreciating our industry before all of its clients by refusing to even look at its offer. It's acting among the biggest players without taking into account a national aerospace policy. It's being docile with Washington instead of defending Quebec's interests. Why is Ottawa fundamentally incapable of providing a vision for our aerospace industry? I thank my colleague for his question. I would invite him to be careful. If he sees what we announced yesterday, our decision was based on national security considerations. So I ask the member to be careful. I have some good news, and Canadian aerospace companies will be happy to hear it. Boeing will be investing $5.4 billion in Canada in our aerospace industry. And not only that, Boeing is going to develop an innovation center in Montreal. I invite my Bloc colleagues to talk to the CEO. The honourable member for Terrebonne.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Le taux de chômage...
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Unemployment's going up in Quebec. It was at its highest level in October compared to even January 2022, and it's not going down because the federal government is pushing thousands of small and medium businesses to bankruptcy by January 18th. The January 18th deadline to reimburse their emergency business account loans means threatening hundreds of thousands of jobs during Christmas. Why not push it back? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let's be clear. Plan A, the entrepreneur has the money, pays it back, and gets their non-refundable portion. Number two, they borrow, they get their money back. Third, they will have 3 years if they can't pay it back. They have to pay the minimum, which is 5% interest, $250 at most a month. That's not going to cause anyone to go into bankruptcy. Madam Speaker, after 8 years of this Liberal government, this is what Canadians are facing. This week, the Journal de Québec reported that a 13-year-old boy wrote to Santa Claus for Christmas, and what did he want? Food. That's Canada after 8 years of Liberal governance. Food is synonymous with agriculture. Bill C-234 passed here in the House of Commons, and it's intended to remove the carbon tax for farmers. However, right now, we have senators appointed by the Liberal government who are delaying passage of that bill. When will the Prime Minister get up? The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'd remind my honourable colleague that the Conservative Party of Canada has senators sitting in their caucus. We do not. As a farmer, I fully understand how important it is to take care of our land and take care of the environment. But I will tell my honourable colleague a question that I received from farmers and ranchers. Number one is why the Conservative Party of Canada does not have a plan for the environment. And they also asked me a question, why you do not support the Canada-Ukraine trade deal. I can tell you, our
L'honorable député de Louis.
The honourable member for Louis-Saint-Laurent. Madam Speaker, what farmers are all telling us, without exception, is that Bill C-234 will help them save $1 billion. That's real. That's what farmers want. But this week was really quite something. This week, we asked the Senate to accelerate the passage for passing the bill, and the Liberals and the Bloc voted against it. The Bloc voted for C-234, but voted against getting the Senate to pass it. The Honourable Minister, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, we are in the middle of the 16 days of activism to end gender-based violence. And meanwhile, the Conservatives have taken to social media to promote the harassment of women in the Senate, of women senators. At the same time, they are blocking legislation here in the House, and now they're trying to distract by bullying women parliamentarians. Madam Speaker, Conservative social media attacks are forcing women in the Senate to take action to protect themselves because they're facing threats. Madam Speaker, no woman should ever have to face harassment.
Honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
At the Liberals' billion-dollar green slush fund, they're rewarding corruption with appointments to their failed infrastructure bank. One Liberal insider admitted at committee that she funneled money to not one, not two, not three, but 4 companies that she has a stake in. This kind of corruption would get you jailed or fired at any other organization, but after 8 years of this NDP Liberal government, it's clear this Prime Minister isn't worth the cost when he's promoting these very same people. So will they shut down this failed slush fund and fire everyone responsible for misappropriating tax dollars?
The Honourable Minister.
You know what Canadians are tired of, Madam Speaker, is the Conservatives spreading misinformation across the nation, Madam Speaker. They're getting influenced, I don't know by who, Madam Speaker, but it's very concerning. The agency they're talking about, Madam Speaker, has been helping hundreds, if not thousands of companies in Canada for a number of decades, Madam Speaker. We took the right action. The moment we had allegation, we investigated. The people who have committed action have resigned. And Madam Speaker, we are determined to have the highest level of of governance when it comes to any organization that receives public funds.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
This minister talks about who the slush fund's been helping. It's been helping Liberal insiders. Just the one I just mentioned helped herself to $1.2 million taxpayer dollars. And this minister then had her appointed to the infrastructure bank. She should have been fired. They didn't fire a single person. They commissioned a whitewash report. And what did Conservatives do? We called for the Auditor General to investigate. That's happening. The Ethics Commissioner to investigate. That's happening. When are they going to start firing people and stop shoveling tax dollars into the pockets of well-connected Liberal insiders?
The honourable minister.
Madam Speaker, it's amazing to which extent the Conservatives would be going to talk down our economy and small and medium-sized businesses, Madam Speaker. I would really tell the member on the other side prudence, because that particular organization has helped companies across the nation with clean technology, Madam Speaker. But one thing is true for Canadians. The moment we heard the allegation, we investigated, we took the right action. We'll get to the bottom of this, Madam Speaker, but we're not going to hurt clean technologies companies in this country because they deserve our support, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Timmins, James Bay.
Bloor Line needs new subway cars, and Thunder Bay has the workers to build them. Toronto had an RFP ready to go earlier this year to replace the cars, but had to pull it because the Liberal government refused to come to the table with funding. The Liberal indifference on transit is bad for the people of Toronto, bad for the workers of Thunder Bay, and bad for the climate. I have watched subway cars come off that line in Thunder Bay. I have spoken with the workers who have the skills, and they're ready to take on this work. Why are the Liberals leaving Toronto's subway system to crumble and Thunder Bay's Alstom workers to fend for themselves?
The Honourable Minister of Justice and Attorney General of Canada.
I thank the member opposite for that important question. It allows me the opportunity to underscore the intense and significant financial supports that this government has put in place for the City of Toronto since 2015. In 2015, the Conservative Party saw fit to supply Toronto with about $200 million a year. In this year, we are providing Toronto $1.8 billion. Next year, that will rise to $2.1 billion. The supports for transit in Toronto and for infrastructure in Toronto are legion on this side of the House. I and other colleagues from Toronto will continue to defend our city.
The honourable member for Windsor West.
The Prime Minister keeps patting himself on the back for a job well done on housing, except anyone could tell you the Liberals are failing. Yesterday, in his latest photo op, the Prime Minister stood in front of his newest housing investment, a luxury condo where a one-bedroom starts at $2,150 for rent per month. People are already stretched every dollar. Investing in public money into luxury condos does not help. So will the Liberals stop putting rich developers over Canadians and immediately release the promised funding to build more affordable homes right now?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We're leading the national effort to solve the housing crisis by ramping up the construction of housing, protecting renters and homeowners, and bringing home ownership back within reach. The Fall Economic Statement introduces measures to unlock more than 30,000 additional apartments, help affordable housing providers build 7,000 more homes, and promote and expand cooperative housing. And not only that, Madam Speaker, but we're cracking down on short-term rentals to unlock up to 30,000 more apartments and help protect homeowners from the stress of elevated interest rates. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for St. John's East.
Climate change is a global crisis that affects the entire world, but its devastating effects are not shared equally among countries. Developing countries who contribute the least to the pollution that causes climate change are the most vulnerable to some of its harshest consequences. Today, the real work begins at COP28, where the Minister of the Environment and Climate Change represents Canada. Can the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister inform us on Canada's first contribution at this conference?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for the question. And as a first move at COP28, Canada is announcing support for developing countries to address loss and damage due to climate change with a $16 million contribution to the startup cost for a global fund. This is a significant step and a big win for the planet as we're helping climate-vulnerable developing countries to face the harshest impact from climate change. We're honoured to be among the first donors of this historic fund at COP28. And as the world comes together to assess our progress so far, we recognize there are still challenges ahead, and Canada will continue to play a leadership role to fight climate change.
The member for Red Deer Lacombe.
After 8 years of inflationary spending, after 8 straight years of deficit, after doubling the national debt, After creating record-setting interest hikes and after implementing a punishing carbon tax, a record number of Canadians can't afford food. So why won't this Prime Minister call his appointees in the Senate and have them pass C-234 and take the tax off food production? What do farmers have to do to get a little respect around here? Yeah. Elect a few more Liberals?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, we all know that the economy and trade go hand in hand. In fact, 1 in 5 jobs in Canada depend on trade. So let's talk about that. The Ukrainian-Canadian Congress has once again expressed their disappointment with the Leader of the Opposition and the Conservatives for voting against Ukraine and free trade. They have written directly to the Conservative leader calling on their party to change their position and vote for the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement. Will Conservative members have the courage to defy their leader, vote for trade, vote for this agreement, and stand with Ukraine?
The Honourable Member for Yellowhead.
Madam Speaker, Conservative Bill C-234 to axe the carbon tax for farmers remains stalled in the Senate. Senators appointed by this Prime Minister continue to make life unaffordable by delaying this bill. Dave and Devon run a dairy operation in my community. They pay thousands more on the carbon tax just to heat their barns. Now the Prime Minister wants to quadruple the tax on them. Madam Speaker, will this Prime Minister take his carbon tax off them to make food affordable for Canadians?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, that member from Alberta represents thousands of Ukrainian Canadians, as I am proud to do. Let me just read to him a little bit about one of my constituents, Alexandra Hichi, and what she wrote to the Conservative leader. She happens to be the president of the Ukrainian-Canadian Congress. What she underscores is the fact that when we're concerned about the price of food in this country, we need to be concerned about geopolitical crises that are causing food prices to escalate. Right. And she underscored that she was disappointed to see the official opposition vote against the adoption of the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement, that Ukraine needs assistance, that Ukraine's government, led by Volodymyr Zelensky, is asking for that assistance. Right. What I'm asking him to do is...
Honourable Member for Saskatoon-Grasswoods.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker. After 8 years of this NDP Liberal government, Canadians are struggling to afford the basics. In fact, Canadians are heading to the food bank in record numbers. This Prime Minister is simply not worth the cost. You know, Kelly in my riding spends $6,300 a year in carbon tax on his farm. Now the Prime Minister wants to quadruple that. Will the Prime Minister simply axe this tax off Kelly's operation to make it more affordable for Canadians to feed their families?
Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, the fundamental principle is that the Leader of the Opposition and his colleagues are not worth the cost. What is the cost? The cost has been underscored by the President of the Ukrainian Congress herself, a woman who happens to be my constituent. What she said is that Ukraine needs assistance. The Ukrainian government is begging for that assistance. What we have seen is a failure of leadership on the part of the official opposition to make supporting Ukraine a nonpartisan issue. It should never be partisan to confront an authoritarian ruler in an illegal war who's driving up the price of food in this country and around the world.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Portage Liskeard.
After 8 long years, it's clear that this Prime Minister simply isn't worth the cost. Jack, a grain farmer from southern Manitoba, paid over $6,000 in carbon taxes to dry his grain in October alone. And no, the government rebate isn't making him better off.
That's right.
But I assume Jack's money is now paying for the Environment Minister's high-carbon, high-hypocrisy 2-week trip to Dubai. And now the Liberals want to quadruple that carbon tax on farmers like Jack. So will the Prime Minister tell his Liberal senators to pass Bill C-234 to help make food more affordable for Canadians?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, it's interesting the member opposite speaks about a high-cost trip. Let's speak about the Conservatives traveling to the UK to sip on champagne and oysters. And at that trip, one of their members were actually paid for by the Danube Institute, who has regularly advocated against Ukraine in support of Russia. Lo and behold, Conservatives come back and vote against the Canada-Ukraine Free Trade Agreement. Madam Speaker, when it comes to the Champagne Conservatives, they're not worth the cost to Canadians or Ukrainians.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Madam Speaker, the agreement with Google is a step in the right direction. And it's a good first step. But we would have liked to see more. Initially, we heard about
amounts up to $172 million. I will just interrupt the member. I want silence in the House. I want to hear the question. From the top, please. Madam Speaker, the government's agreement with Google is good news. It's a step in the right direction. Would have liked the government to get more money. At the outset, we had heard about amounts up to $172 million, but it's still good news. Now, if Meta would show some openness to negotiating, that would also be good. However, $100 million will not resolve our media crisis. Can the Minister of Heritage assure us that Radio-Canada, which already receives a large amount of public money, will not be taking more money out of that too small amount? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. This agreement will inject $100 million a year for our media, and that amount will be indexed to inflation every year. That's great news for our local and Quebec media. If better terms are reached with other countries, our agreement states that we will automatically access those terms. We will always support our media. That's what we're doing here. This is good news for our newsrooms throughout Canada and in Quebec. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Well, my colleague has just explained what's in the agreement, but that's not what my question was about. I was asking about CBC and the amount of money, but all right, we'll come back to that. Another thing that the minister must do immediately is to make sure that we avoid having more layoffs in the media sector. We know that many companies are having trouble. For example, Bell, Quebecor, and Cogeco have all made statements in that regard recently. They need to be able to access the 35% journalism tax credit, which is already available to print media, and that needs to be done before the holidays, before more newsrooms close, and once again, we have less diversity of information. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. First of all, I'm thinking about all the workers and their families affected by the TVA layoffs. We have implemented measures to help the journalism sector, and we're seeing what more we can do. I am open, when the minister remains open to all proposals made. We are seeing the impact of conservative filibustering to prevent the modernization of our laws and programs that would enable our media and culture to exist.
For Edmonton, Wetaskiwin.
Madam Speaker, this week we learned that our Canadian economy shrunk by 1.1% in the last quarter, while the U.S. economy grew by 5.2%. When our leader pointed this out, a Liberal minister responded yesterday by saying, quote, "We actually have an economic plan." Well, that was convincing. Rarely has the word actually been less convincingly used in a sentence than that. But, Madam Speaker, the last time that we saw a plan like this was from the equally incompetent Trudeau government of the 70s and 80s, which obliterated our economy. When will this government realize that those Trudeau economics are as bad for Canada now?
No, Trudeau father. I'm sorry, it was the 70s. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. We're advancing the government's plan to grow the middle class, build more homes faster, and build an economy that works for everyone, while the Conservatives have become this one-issue party claiming that axing the tax will solve all of the country's problems. Well, it won't, Madam Speaker, but this week we introduced Bill C-59, our fall economic statement that is going to help deliver on key measures of this economic plan. In this legislation, we're modernizing competition laws to help stabilize grocery prices. We're doubling the rural top-up on the pollution pricing rebate. We're removing the GST on new rental home construction and co-ops, which the Conservatives stand against, calling co-ops Soviet-style.
Honourable Member for Edmonton, Wetaskiwin.
Madam Speaker, the Liberals love to bury the very real hardships of Canadians in ridiculous non-answers like that. The GDP, per capita GDP numbers represent the real world, the world where Canadians actually live. In this real world, Canadians are getting worse off. It hasn't been this bad since the Trudeau economic rampage of the 70s and 80s, which took us decades to recover from. Does anyone over there have the courage to look their Prime Minister in the eye and tell him that following that Trudeau economic blueprint is destroying our economy?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. From the beginning, we've been delivering for Canadians. And from a personal perspective, I'd like to highlight a couple of weeks ago what those Conservatives continue to say is that when we build affordable, non-profit, non-market co-op housing, that's Soviet-style housing. Madam Speaker, that plays right in to their recent vote against the Ukraine-Canada Free Trade Agreement. What are they thinking over there, Madam Speaker? I would ask that these members consider voting for our fall economic statement so that we can build more homes faster and bring affordability to Canadians through good, proven mechanisms like non-market housing. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Madam Speaker, after 8 years, this government still doesn't seem to get that it could reduce food prices by giving farmers a break. That's why we really need to adopt C-234. This costly Bloc Liberal coalition is totally disconnected from what's happening on the ground. It wants to radically increase the carbon tax. Voting for the Bloc Québécois has a high cost. Producers in my region are calling me and telling me to get this bill adopted. Will the Prime Minister tell his so-called independent appointed senators to stop blocking C-234 in order to reduce grocery prices for all Canadian families? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Madam Speaker. There's something I just don't understand when my Quebec colleague asks this type of question. No matter what happens with this bill, it won't have an impact on Quebec. In fact, it will actually disadvantage Quebec and BC agricultural producers because they will continue to have their carbon tax and the other provinces won't. So what my colleague for Beauce is actually doing is causing more problems for Quebec producers.
Député de Halifax West.
Madam Speaker, when Canadians needed support during the pandemic, community groups and charities stepped up to provide crucial assistance. Now many are having difficulty generating revenue, managing increased costs and demand for services, and attracting and retaining paid staff and volunteers. Can the Parliamentary Secretary update the House what's been done to support these organizations?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, through our Community Services Recovery Fund, nearly 5,500 organizations nationwide have been funded. In the members' riding of Halifax West, that means the Fairview Resource Centre can continue offering family programming and services to new parents and community meals for families and seniors. Also, this means that groups like the Halifax Sexual Health Centre can continue offering vital reproductive and gender-affirming care to the community. These are local groups who are making a real difference in the members' riding and across the country. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
The Liberal Minister of Industry admitted he had not read the $15 billion Stellantis contract that will cost every taxpayer in Canada $1,000 in new taxes. Conservatives put forward a motion requiring the government make contracts public. When you take taxpayer money, transparency is expected. For 10 hours, Liberals have been obstructing the passage of this motion on a filibuster, hiding their bad deal. Will the Liberals put transparency where their mouth is and release the contracts?
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, it's so, you sit on this side and Canadians are always so outrageous to hear the Conservative make crazy allegations like that, Madam Speaker. Not only they've been against the Stellantis deal, Madam Speaker, they've been against the Volkswagen deal, they've been against the Northvolt deal, they're against the Ford deal, they're against the GM deal. Madam Speaker, will they ever do something for Canadian workers? Will they ever do something for the auto industry? Will do something for the communities, Madam Speaker? On this side of the House, we have a plan. We have brought record investment and will continue to invest in our auto sector.
The Honourable Member for South Shore St. Margaret's.
Will he have the guts to show the public and Canadians the contract, $1,000 of taxes per household to assemble batteries with parts made from China, shipped to the U.S. for cars assembled and sold in the U.S. Taxpayers will cover the cost of batteries. These cars with no guarantees of Canadian jobs and no guarantees that these plants will survive after the 100% battery subsidy ends in 2033. Liberals are obstructing the Conservative motion to release the contracts by filibustering a committee. These contracts must be way worse.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, 2,300 Canadians building the plant, 2,500 Canadians building batteries, maximizing work for our world-class trades. Conservatives never supported the EV battery plant in Windsor, and they are now working overtime to tear it down. Madam Speaker, our Liberal government worked with Labour to deliver the plant. We are working with Labour to secure the plant, and we will fight tooth and nail to protect the plant from Conservative attacks.
The honourable member for Calgary Centre.
Madam Speaker, after a set of incompetent negotiations, the NDP Liberal government acceded to a $15 billion subsidy to Stellantis. That's $6 million taxpayer funds per job. But more than half these jobs may actually be coming from Korea.
Shame.
After 8 years, this government is not worth the cost. First, we had a cabinet minister that did not read his emails. Now we've got one that will not read the contracts. The jig is up. Release the Stellantis contract so Canadian contributors can see what they're paying for.
The honourable minister.
Speaker, it's outrageous to hear the Conservative. Not only I read the contract, I negotiated the contract, Madam Speaker. And these guys have never seen it. That they make all these claims. They have all these numbers. They don't know what they're talking about, Madam Speaker. And it's not me who's saying that. It's the leader of Unifor. These guys don't know a hell of what they're talking about, Madam Speaker. When their leader was the Minister of Employment, not only 3,000 jobs, 30,000, 300,000 jobs were lost in the manufacturing sector. I will take no lessons from any of them, Madam Speaker. I will fight every step of the day.
The honourable member for Kitchener South Hespeler.
Madam Speaker, this week we have begun marking 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The campaign started on the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women and will conclude on Human Rights Day, December the 10th. Unfortunately, we are too well aware that every day in this country and around the world, women still face emotional, physical, and psychological abuse. As a society, we have made progress, but so much more needs to be done. What concrete actions is this government taking to confront the threat?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank the member for Kitchener South Hespeler for speaking up for women everywhere. We take the issue of gender-based violence very seriously and have implemented more supports for victims, for survivors and their families, supports for violence prevention and more responsive justice system, and Indigenous-led approaches to challenges faced by Indigenous women and girls, brought forward responsible firearms safety measures, including red and yellow flag gun laws. Madam Speaker, we know there's more to do, but we are committed to making sure that we end gender-based violence.
The honourable member for Churchill-Kawasanuk-Aski.
Madam Speaker, something is rotten in the CRA. Following a phone call from Deloitte to a senior official at CRA, they gave a company $63 million in what are being referred to as, quote, illegitimate tax rebates. The CRA was auditing the company in question, yet it took less than 24 hours after a phone call from a powerful accounting firm to not only make the problem go away, but to give away millions of dollars of Canadians' money. The minister needs to come clean. How many audits have they cancelled at Deloitte's request? Who else has this kind of power? And why aren't the Liberals ensuring tax fairness at a time when Canadians are struggling?
The Honourable Ministre.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I can assure you that decisions made by the CRA are made in a way that follows the rules. They are administrative decisions that are the same for everyone. Of course, I cannot comment on an individual case, but I can assure you that the CRA is fully independent. Thank you.
That puts an end to oral questions. Tabling of documents. On a point of order, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a document here that I'm asking for unanimous consent to be able to